You won't have class, I don't believe. They should be in, yeah, they should be downtown, according to what Betty was saying. There you go. Anyways, next week's daylight saving time. So you do what in fall? No, you spring forward, right? Oh, okay. Fall back.
Oh, we get an extra
When
hour.
we set the clock back, the sun springs forward.
It's too early, Ralph. Too early. Oh, Ralphisms, too early. And you know the sad thing about it, my son Adams is starting to do with Ralphisms. I go, no, don't even. And he even calls them Ralphisms. He said, Dad, here comes a Ralphism. All right, it is time to get started this morning. Al, would you do the honors of leading us in prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this Lord's Day morning where we come together to have a class and to study your word. We pray that you will be with Bruce through this class time and he can get across the points that he has studied up for and that we can learn more. We ask you to be with any of our number who couldn't be here this morning. Pray that they're all okay. We ask this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, back into James. And we're still in the first chapter. It's taken us a minute or two, but you know what? We're in no hurry to get anywhere. Just kind of look at it as we're on the freeway, the 405, at 4:30 on a Friday. Yeah, pretty bad. All right. So in verse 22, James 1:22. This is the embodiment, I think, of a lot of stuff that we talk about. But prove yourselves hearers of the words, and not merely hearers who delude themselves. This afternoon, I'm going to talk kind of sort of about this one passage, but I'm going to do it contextually with regards to a word. And the word is nothing. I'm going to preach on nothing this afternoon. You will hear nothing. You will listen to nothing. And everything that you do will be nothing. So if you don't be doers of the word, you do what? You do nothing. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it. We're going to talk about the word nothing this afternoon. Anyways, prove yourself doers of the word, not merely hearers who delude themselves. So as we were drawing to a conclusion last week, we were on this verse. And we were talking a little bit about, and just started leaching into it, verses 23 and following. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his natural face in the mirror. Once he has looked at himself and gone away, he has immediately forgotten what kind of person he was. And that's kind of where we kind of fleshed out all the ideas so we could get there. And we were going to start looking a little bit deeper. For one who looks intently at the perfect law of liberty, etc. So we realize we have to be doing something about what we profess. And it's seen in everything that we do each and every day. We make evident that we are walking with Christ. Can we ever get to the point that said, man, we got it made? What happens if we do? Your what? Your voice sounds funny.
You're in trouble or you're dead.
You're in trouble or you're dead, okay? Optimistic look at life. All right. What?
I answered your question. What? Any question was?
Okay.
If you ever get to the point that you don't try, you don't get, then you're in a lot of trouble.
Or
Dead.
dead. All right. You keep trying. We press on to perfection. Perfection is the realm of completeness, wholeness, fullness. Not nothingness, but fullness. So he said, don't become a forgetful hearer, but become an effectual doer. And so we were discussing it. 25, excuse me. One who looks intently. What do you do when you look intently? Closely. Detail. I've told you that I enjoy going to art museums. Used to not do that, but ever since Linda and I have been married, she has got me aligned where I kind of enjoy going to art museums now. I do not enjoy the technical part of it the way she does, but I like looking intently at it. I love surrealism. I love to stand back and try to see what the painter is saying. There was a great painting. Well, I can't call it a painting. There was a great object that was at the LACMA, LA County Museum of Art. And it was during the Magritte showing. Do you know who Magritte is? Magritte is the guy who would paint the Derby with the pipe, and there'd be nobody there. You haven't seen that painting?
Yes,
Cesar's
yeah.
advanced in intellect and knowledge, so he's going, yes, I know that painting. Okay, anyways, it was and it was all surrealistic. So I go in there and I'm looking around. I go, I've seen that, I've seen that, I've seen that. And then there was one that just captivated me. And I'm going, what is the painter trying to say? And so I call the curator over. And I go, what's up with this? He said, that's interesting, isn't it? I said, absolutely. What's being told? And he goes, what do you think's being told? And I said, I think it's being told that he ran out of paint. Because what it was a frame with no painting, a frame on the wall. And that's why I had to call it an art object. It was not a painting at all. And it was signed, the frame was signed by the well-known painter. And it was a sign and painting of either infinity or nothingness, whatever you decided. So I thought of it as I was standing there about this verse. We become a forgetful hearer and not a doer. We are empty. We're just shells. There's nothing there. And I don't want my life, even though I don't want to be, lauded and put up here, I don't want my life to be for naught. How do you encapsulate the life and you just hang an empty frame? How do you intone your relationship as a Christian? An empty frame. We don't do things to be noticed, right? But wouldn't we like to think we're more than an empty frame? That our lives have touched somebody along the way? I mean, I'm always going to remember Alexandria for her love of playing hangman and beating me at it. And although she had to be creative in doing it, very creative, she'll tell you all about it. But it made an imprint on my life and it makes me smile. It touched me in such a way, even that day, and it gave me a connection to her even now. And she'd been here today, I'd have played hangman with her, and I would have started the game, and I'd have used some of her tricks. But we don't want to go through life without touching somebody's life. And he's leading to that point. And we're going to tie it in with something that just happened with John and Kathy. Let's go on a little bit further. If anyone thinks himself, verse 26, to be religious, and yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this man's religion is worthless. Do you agree?
Yes,
How hard is it to bridle your tongue?
very.
Oh, for me, it is impossible. Absolutely impossible. I say that with my tongue in my cheek. My father told me when I was a kid, you were vaccinated with a phonograph needle. In other words, I was constantly yammering. And he would try to get me to settle down, calm down, quit talking. It's not so much the amount of words as it is the quality of words that comes out. Miss Joy, was that a thought?
He sent out, an email about a woman who had contacted you in prayers.
Yes.
For children, that moved me. And I just said some prayers for her this week. It also took me to a prayer of great peace. When I look back at my parents, who a year after they were married, traveled 3,000 miles to a land that would offer them better life. And when they were here and they ran into somebody who preached the gospel to them, and that's what this verse is talking about. They accepted it. They bought it at first because it was totally against what they were taught being growing up. But they finally recognized what it was, and how important it was, and embraced it. And then raised 3 children to teach us how important it was to regard our God and to follow his teachings. And we in turn pass that on to our children.
Okay.
And it just, her prayer, it was, her request was so touching.
Yeah, we get those from time to time. Here's what happened to John and Kathy, if you don't mind me using you. They were driving to services this morning, got off the off-ramp. And there was a woman there that needed help. And John and Kathy usually carry around bags of groceries, things of that nature. They gave her some help. And one of the things in the bag was a heart-to-heart, house-to-house. As they were pulling away, what was the woman doing? She had pulled that out. She was sitting down and reading. It is amazing what people find as far as help, what we can touch their lives with. Yeah, when we were doing heart-to-heart, house-to-house, it did not do us that much good that we're aware of. We have hundreds of them. Hundreds. That if we think of it, we can do like John and Kathy did, take them with us, hand them out to somebody. You never know what they're going to do. And it's a little bit of serendipity. Because this week I had heard from the Klamath Falls congregation. And they use heart-to-heart, house-to-house. And I just thought, that's kind of intriguing. They are so far removed from everything else. And, but people are trying different things. But they're trying something. Yes, sir, Mr.
Can
Dean.
you explain what this is you're talking about for some of us that don't know what heart?
Oh, okay, heart-to-heart. It is a direct mailing. Either one of us got short arms or one of us is old. And I'm the one of us. Austin was the one. Austin, who cares to remain nameless and doesn't want his last name said. But he got us in this. And what it is this group, which is tied in with the congregation in Tallahassee, if I remember, they have mailing lists. And they have a way of distributing this to addresses in an area. And so for, 2 years? 2 years' time, thereabouts, we would mail this to various addresses, primarily close to where Austin and where Jason lived. So it would be in the Woodland Hills area. And we didn't see anything as a result. Yes, we did. That's not true. We had 8 responses. 8 people either called to complain or came to the church building. One person came to the church building. The others were calls to complain. One woman was indignant. How do we get her address, etc. But we have boxes and boxes of these pamphlets. And, you know, I may not agree with everything that's written, but for the most part, Alan's right on spot. I think this is one of his. Yeah, Alan Webster. The 3 attractions of the cross. And they get to the point of here's what you need to do. It is a very simple way. Let's see if we can do this better. It's a very simple way of getting the message out. Yo, I didn't mean to say yo, but yo.
You know, it's interesting, John and Kathy got off the freeway off ramp a little earlier than me because when I saw that lady, she was reading it still.
She's still reading it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And, I gave her a couple bucks, and I saw her reading that, so. But getting back to James, this, you know, anyone thinks himself to be religious and yet does not fight on their tongue, but deceives their own heart, this person's religion is worthless. Well, I know from what I know about everyone here, that we bridle our tongues. We might not, we slip up. I slip up all the time, we slip up. But that's the difference maybe between, a lot of difference between a Christian and a non-Christian. Non-Christian perhaps, although there are those that are very discreet in their speech. I would like to believe that Christians have more control of what they really want to say.
I would like to think.
So, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Al, then Glenn.
Well, to me, I used to think this was only about swearing, but I don't even think that anymore. I think it's way more about maybe being sensitive to somebody's situation or being careful about what you say. I don't know if I'm explaining it that way, more so than, you know, in the middle of nowhere and you smash your hand with a hammer and throw out 3 words. I think it's more so your communication with people.
Oh,
Than what I thought earlier on in the show.
yeah, no, and that is exactly what he's talking about. Miss Gwen.
In Galatians 5:22 and 23, it talks about the fruit of the Spirit.
Uh-huh.
One of those is self-control. And also, when you bridle your tongue, you must have mindfulness of the words that you say.
Oh, exactly. At a congregation I worked at, unfortunately, they had not heard what Gwen, Al, and Dan had to say, because we had a problem with wagging tongues. And so I figured, how am I going to stop this? And this was right when I moved there and I learned of this. And so we went for a drive and we ended up in this really neat town. And we're looking around through the shops and I saw something and I bought it. And what it was a tongue about that long. And you put it into water. And after a week, it comes out that long. And so I got up one Sunday morning and I said, well, I'm going to get ready to preach the sermon for next week right now. And I had a jug of water. And I said, see this tongue? Pay attention to how small it is. Dropped it into the water. Wednesday night, I picked it out and it was a little bit longer. I said, see, it's growing. The following Sunday, I preached on the power of the tongue. And not so much about, like Al was talking about, but the things that we say, the lack of candor, all of that which we know we do, and we ought not to do. It's amazing what a little thing the tongue is. I have looked to buy more of those little dehydrated tongues, and I haven't ever been able to find them. I would love to have more. I found a dehydrated brain. And when one of my grandchildren was on the honor roll, we drove all the way from Washington to Las Vegas to attend the ceremony. And I handed it to her and she goes, "Grandpa, what's this?" I said, "It's dehydrated brain. When you feel that you're at a loss of brain power, stick it in water." And she took it and went, she probably was expecting money. But little did she know. Go ahead, Janice.
In this verse, the source of the unbridled tongue is the heart.
Yes.
So it starts in the heart.
Yeah,
The tongue is just the mechanism that the heart reflects.
exactly. I was taking part in a class yesterday, and they were talking about how the head and heart are so intertwined. You cannot separate it. And they talked about how it is then indicative of the actions. You know, and I'm going, oh, this is so infantile. I know this. Why am I sitting here? And fortunately, while I was taking part in it, Mike and Susan called me. So I put it on pause, talked to Mike and Susan for 35 minutes, then went, oh, I got to go back to this tedium. And so hit it again. And it was kind of interesting after listening to Susan for 35 minutes, then hearing a woman talk about the tongue and the heart. Well, have you ever been on the end of a 35-minute Susan Odorizzi story? Oh, it's wonderful. I love Susan greatly. She's not malicious at all with her tongue, but boy, can she tell a fun story. But what Janice is saying is actually true, what they're going on here. The heart. And the heart is the reflective seat of the intellect, the emotion, the will. Where do we have a problem with the tongue? In the heart. What part of the heart? Need a dehydrated brain. I would say the emotion. Do our emotions get out of the way? Excuse me, in the way? We get angry? Did you probably said you wanted to throw something at the TV Friday night? Did your emotions get the better of you? Or was it floor? No, don't throw that. That's money. But we allow our emotions to get out of control. We say and do things. So when Gwen says that, we have to have self-control, we do. Then a lot of times I want to say something. A lot of times I want to post something on the internet. I don't. Dan, then Janice.
I know that when other people have self-control, it's just like, maybe I'll get a bad mood. Tracy will just not say a word. She'll let me go on. Even though she wants to give me some words, but she'll say, I'm just biting my tongue. And it's great because it makes, the soft answer turns way around. She gives me a soft answer, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I just said that. Whereas, if she comes back at me, oh, I'm doubling down. Yeah. Sometimes, that's not often.
Dan, I think every married man here can relate in spades with what you're saying.
And it goes both ways. If she comes to me, she's good, and I just don't say a word, that's magic. But this, we're going to get into chapter 3, but 3:2, where we all stumble in many ways. If a person does not stumble in what they say, they are a perfect person, able to bridle the whole body as well. So we all get gropey and say that.
Oh, yeah. And there is that silence is golden. Yeah. Go ahead, Janice.
I'll bring up another saying. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become deeds. Watch your deeds, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Character is everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss Caitlin.
I just want to say, I have no self-control. I'm still in my 20s.
Oh, great. You're still in your 20s. But you got lots of self-control. No? Okay, let's go on. All right. So think back to that empty frame. Now, think if I was standing in front of that empty frame and there was a small dot, a small red dot. Where would my eyes go? But it's a small, tiny little dot. Why would it go there? That's our life. We may got it all figured out. I don't have English figured out, but we may got. We may think we have it all figured out, but we need to look again because that red dot may be there. Miss Kathy.
I see my life differently than you. I'm not an empty frame. I see my life as a tapestry, and I'm interwoven with threads of people when I was first baptized, and it taught me the truth. And then I continue to grow, and then I'm interwoven with threads from preachers that came and went and came and went. And so those threads were added to this tapestry. And then as my children were born and grown, and I see more threads of people who helped me with raising my children, and we did things together. And I see my life as a beautiful tapestry with threads of so many people that touched my life. I'm not just one thread and one color going back and forth of nothingness. I'm multicolored threads of all these people that have touched my life.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, that's the issue. We don't want to be that empty frame. Caitlin, you had a thought?
I was gonna say, I think we are the empty frame. It's up to us to choose what to display.
Exactly, that's what Kathy's talking about. When we lived in Oregon, we would spend, whenever I took a day off, this was before I went into preaching and whatnot. And Linda and I would drive over to the coast. We'd go over to Florence, then go up to Yachats and places like that. And we would walk the shore. And it would always be after a storm. And Linda would pick up driftwood and shells and things of that nature. Then she'd come back and she would create a tapestry. And she would weave into the thing shells, driftwood, whatever she could find, different colors, and beautiful. You know, and then she would hang it on the wall. And people would come and they would look and they go, wow, that's really neat. Where'd you get all the things? Well, we got them all over Oregon and we did this. But it told the story. Kathy just told us a story about her life. That her life is interwoven with all the things preachers have told them over the years. I have the hand jive going. But also with their children, with other things. It becomes this rich telling of her life. So we're presented at the moment we become children of God. Whatever was is gone. We're given a new blank slate. A blank slate. To then create something new. Precious in the sight of God. Precious in the sight of others. And that's what James is talking about here. We may be getting a little bit more cerebral than James may have intended, but we're right on the basis of what he is talking about being doers of the word, simple people that are doers of the word of God in everything that we do in life. So think back to what's been said so far. John and Kathy get off the freeway, hand this woman a bag. In the bag is a heart-to-heart, house-to-house. She immediately begins reading it. Moments later, who comes flying down the off-ramp? Dan. What happens? He gives her money. He gives her money. And he goes on his way looking in the rearview mirror and he sees the woman. So you got two individuals, members of the church, well, three actually, four, Tracy. But you got these individuals from the household of faith, moments from one another, putting into practice what James is talking about here, and they're unbeknownst to one another. Woman doesn't know them from anybody. And yet the word is being put out there, her life is being touched. A lot of people's lives can be touched by you, by me, by others. We just have to do it. We just have to do it. Okay, next verse. Verse 27. This is pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father, to visit orphans and widows in their distress and keep oneself unstained by the world. Good works alone ain't going to do it. I can do all the good works in the world, but if I don't have love, what is it? Well, actually, let's go back to, I'm getting ahead of myself because this is going to be in the sermon this afternoon. I've already given you a hint. So go back to 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am. So I can do all sorts of philanthropic work. I can erect buildings with my name on it. I can do all sorts of things. But if I don't have love, if I don't have the proper motivation, it's nothing. Yes, ma'am.
I don't see that in this verse. In all respect, I don't see that in this verse.
In which verse?
That it's talking about love. If you have not love, it's talking about pure religion. What is pure religion?
Correct.
It's not just going to church.
Okay.
And not just reading the Bible. It's putting it into action. It is works, and I know that works does not save us, only the grace of God. But it says, show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.
Okay, so
And that's what he's leading up to. This is not about, to me, in all respect, it's not about love. It's talking about pure religion.
okay, and I agree with you. Pure undefiled religion. Pure undefiled religion, from my perspective, and I could be wrong, is motivated at the nexus, love. Because you love God, you're going to keep his commandments. So because one of the commandments is that I reach out to others, everything that I've got to do is be motivated by love. So here, when James writes, he says, to visit orphans and widows in their distress, keep oneself unstained by the world. That's what I got to do. And it's got to be motivated by love. I have to have enough love for the God of heaven to stop on the freeway and help that woman. I've got to have enough love. I've got to have enough love for the God of heaven to help Caitlin if Caitlin needs help. I've got to do good to all men, especially those of the household of faith. But I also have to have enough love for people in the world to teach them the message of the gospel. I have to have enough love for me that I remain unspotted by the world. So that's where I think love comes into all this. So that's where I think it does. Yes, sir, Mr. Dan.
So, this is really, quite a statement, where it says that pure and undefiled religion, saying, this is what's from God, telling us this, to visit orphans and widows in their distress. I don't do this, and I don't know how many of us do this, and I know that some churches really emphasize this, and they go out of the way, it seems, to visit orphans and widows, and I know this seems very specific, I know it's a general attitude and mindset that we need to have, should kind of explain. But it is kind of specific here to orphans and widows, and so, it begs the question, how important is it for us to be, and then elsewhere talks about visiting those in prison.
Yep. Hebrews 13th chapter.
So I just wanted to hear some
Well,
thoughts on that.
right, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's something that we should do. Who's James written to? Christians, okay. So is this a congregational responsibility or individual? It's an individual responsibility. So I can't stand back and say, all right, I'm going to let my work be done congregationally. This is something I've got to do. So I can't say, this person needs help. Well, I'm helping because the congregation where I'm a member is assisting them. No, I've got to get involved. Yes, sir, Mr. John.
I think the key right here, and I think you guys are all hitting on, is that we visited orphans and widows and their affliction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that he's referring to people that are orphans. Specifically, he's talking about people that are lackeys in their lives, that are in need of help in some fashion. And you just mentioned Kate, she needs help. You'll help her out. She's not an orphan. She's not a widow,
No.
but she's a person that has a need.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people out there that have needs.
Okay.
And our job is to seek those people out that have needs and help them fill in the gap where their needs are taking hold. And help them get beyond those needs that are preoccupied. Their futures, their wants, and their time that's occupying their lives. So they can go out and do things in a similar fashion.
Okay.
Helping others that have needs, concerns, that need help in some way.
Right. And I think that'd be supported by any number of other passages. Galatians 6th chapter, we just quoted a little while ago. Do good to all men, especially those of the household of faith. We have a responsibility. I cannot, in all good conscience, can I turn my back on a brother or sister in Christ who has tremendous need? No. No. Can I turn my back on somebody out on the street?
If they have a need, you can help them out in some fashion.
I've got to do
That
it.
is true.
Opportunity plus ability equals responsibility. That little, if you see an opportunity and you have the ability to do something, then you're responsible. And I really feel that.
Oh, I agree. I use that a lot. That equates to that level of responsibility. Here's the opportunity. Dan pulled off the freeway. All right. Dan had the ability, pulls out some money, helps the woman out. You did the same thing. You both looked at that same woman as a responsibility. My responsibility to see if I can help her. She provided the opportunity. We have the wherewithal. We're going to do this. Miss Joy, then Dan.
I don't know how much of James' writing here is channeled by the physical times. But at the time he would be writing, if a child became an orphan, they had no income. And if there was, unless there was a family member who could take them in, or a friend who could take them in and provide for them, they had no means of support, no means of survival. The same thing with the widows. There was no social security. There was none of these agencies in place. If a woman became a widow, she either had to go back under the support of a brother, a son, an uncle, a male, and then a family. she had nothing of her own. And so these are two groups of people that would be very afflicted by the situation that they find themselves in. So it's the same thing with us, we see someone in need, a specific need, we do what we can.
Yeah. You guys, the ladies, you're studying Ruth, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you got Ruth right there in a nutshell. Go ahead, Dan.
That's what I was kind of thinking about what Joy was saying, but even today, the most vulnerable people are children
Yes.
and old women that perhaps they were housewives and didn't have a career, and, that of course, not more common in the past, but they're more vulnerable. And so I think the specifics here are there specifically for a reason, rather than it's just being a generality to helping everybody. So I do think we need that. And I think, I was thinking about how many, we don't have orphanages. We used to have orphanages.
They're still around.
Okay. And that's something we should be looking at. I should be looking into helping to support.
Well, but the weird thing about orphanages and those that inhabit the orphanages are not true orphans. An orphan is what? Someone without parents, right? In many of the places that are referred to as orphanages are inhabited by children that have been given up by their parents, is what I've seen. And even in situations like that, there have been places where I preached at that members of the congregation said, we're willing to adopt these children. We're willing to take them into our homes. And so I went and talked to the head of the orphanage. And I said, here's the people, I've got names. We're willing to adopt these kids. You know what I was told? Can't adopt them. Why? Parents have not agreed to have them put up for adoption. But we want to adopt them, to give them a home. We're getting fundage back from the state as well. Yes, ma'am.
I think they hook you up with some children have been removed from the home because the parents have been incarcerated, or they have been abused or neglected.
Right.
And there are societies in Ventura County that supply a home for them, and food and clothing, and that they need to go to school. There are other groups. They're not called orphanages because their children are not orphans. They have been removed from the home because the parents have abused them or have been incarcerated. So if you want to help, they're always needing help. And they provide home, school, and clothes, and food, and everything for them. And we, as a quilter, we provide blankets for them. So when they go into a room, they, of course, from the sheriff, they get a stuffed animal, okay? We provide the quilts that go on their bed, and they get to pick their quilt. They get to pick if it's Spider-Man or something. So they get their quilt, so they know that that's their room, that's their bed. And then, anyway, it's just saying that there's so many organizations, they're not financed by the federal government. They're not in for the money.
Well,
And
the ones that
Okay, well, not in Ventura County, because there's 11 different organizations in Ventura County that you can support with good conscience.
Okay.
That these kids are in need. And these kids have to go through counseling because a lot of them have been physically or sexually abused. So, there's a big need.
Yeah, and there's a big push right now on TV for adopt a teenager. Adopt a teenager. Anyways, there's opportunities that we can all find. So we'll pick it up there next week. We'll start in 2.